Good evening, one and all. Hopefully you can hear me. It might be a little bit awkward tonight because there's only me here. My ear maggot has not shown up as yet, but hey ho, it's not going to stop me doing what I was going to do anyway. As you can see by the title, Flow, or should it be Go with the Grain, or something similar to that. I can't remember now. It's the trouble with getting old. So it's all going to be spindle work tonight. Last week we did bowls and bowl gouge work. So tonight it's going to be spindle work. So welcome one and all. We can run over only because the beard is flooded out, so he's not going to be able to do much. So he said if I want to run a bit longer, so that's all down to you guys. So I can't go through the chat because it's a bit technical when I'm on my own. I see Jennifer's just joined us, Gerard's just joined us, and Duncan's just joined us. So welcome, guys. If there is a question, whack it in there with questions in big letters, please, so that I can possibly see it. Evening, Mark. Lynn's popped in as well. That's my daughter. So let's see how we go anyway. So it's going to be using different tools to do or arrive at the same end product, which is all spindle work. So I'm going to bang you onto a different camera. He said, like, 4. Hopefully that one will give you an overhead shot. So the first tool I'm going to use for the complete job, and I'm going to do all 5 because there's 5 small individual demos for different tools, is a spindle roughing gouge, and they're all going to be pens. So it's a complete project in each one, but I'm not putting them together. I'm just finishing to sand, and I'll finish them with my preferred method, which is a CA. So I'll talk you through it, and hopefully it will run relatively smoothly. It's just a standard pen mandrel I've got on this. I'm doing not slimline, I'm doing the streamline one, so it's slightly fatter to the middle of the pen. That was catching then because I was trying to scrape it rather than cut it. Once you get on to cutting mode, the nice shavings peeling off, and go backwards and forwards quite safely. I'm keeping the gouge square to the wood, no pressure on the tool, and the shavings are peeling off beautifully. This is a straight grain piece of walnut. So the nib end, I always have headstock end. I know where I am then. I'm going to use the side wing now so that I'm using it as a skew. Now the middle bushing is slightly bigger. The top doesn't need to be too fat. If it's too fat along there, the clip bows out, So not a good thing. There we are, turned off of the spindle roughing gouge. If we stop that, there's virtually no tear out and no sanding required. I'll go straight on to 240. Over to 400. And this is where the beauty of good tool control is. You don't need any sanding. Right, now to enhance this further and make it an individual pen, I have got a thread chaser. So very carefully lining up the last 3 threads. I'm not chasing a thread, I'm cutting very close concentric rings on there. Now I'm going to finish that off with a bit of 600. Pen turned. Bit of paper to put on some CA. Now everyone, or a lot of you in the chat, won't like me using CA for a pen finish. I know one in particular won't, but I'm sorry, Mark. It's the way I always do it, and I get good results. So it's a medium CA. Camera's a little bit blurred, but I can't do much about it. I wanted to get it low so that you could all see. Paper underneath, dribble it on, straight the way through. Job done. Leave that for a few seconds while I dig out the next blank. And the next one, I can show you while that's just going off. Mark the centres there, and with the shape I do, I don't need to mark the inside or which is going to be the centre when I take it off the lathe. So we'll whip this one off the lathe, put it aside. I will finish this, buff this up tomorrow morning, unless we've got time tonight. Hold it by the ends. One pen, you can see the thread section on the end, parallel rings. It's not picking it up brilliantly, but it's better than the rubber grips that you can get in the Streamline kits. So all I've got to do is decide which is top and bottom on the wood. Doesn't make a lot of difference on this one because the grain is pretty straight. Bigger one in the middle, line up the 2 lines, slide it all up, lock it down. Get rid of the spindle roughing gouge because that's had its session for today. So what are we going to use next? Another spindle roughing gouge? No, not quite. A skew. A big skew. A very big skew. It's a felling axe. A little bit of a gimmick, but so many people say, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. That's not safe, that's not safe. Well, I can assure you it is. Tool's resting on the tool rest. The tool is sharp. I've just run the diamond over it. As long as you obey the usual rules of turning, you can get nice shavings off. Now I will turn down from the middle to the end until at least it's round, probably a little bit more. I want to turn off of the wood, not onto the wood. As soon as you turn onto the wood, which that cut would be there, there's a chance of splitting this end out. So we turn the skew around, come off this end. Beautiful shavings coming off. No pressure on it at all. Jets is doing the work exactly the same as a skew would do. I've had gasps of surprise when I pulled this out of the sack at club. You can't use that. Watch me. And also use, I did have an old paddy shovel. I ground the end on that. Cut a treat. Break up concrete and dirt. I don't see why it shouldn't cut nicely a piece of wood. Not trying to rush this because it's a fairly soft English cedar. Getting down to the nitty gritty, we're just a little bit proud. Come in from the other end to get my shape. I've also sharpened up before a long wrecking bar, pry bar, call them what you will, and turned a pen with that. So basically, didn't look good. Just about salvage that. So basically, providing you've got something that's a decent steel and sharp, you can use it for turning. There's our pen. Almost done. One more on the nose there. No, that's turned with an axe. So, bit of 120 on that, just to get that down there. Not sure whether this one will actually make the final pass. That was 240. This is 400. Look and see where that's broken out, whether it can be salvaged. See, I've got a little ring of a mark in there. And just go back one grit. The lights aren't very good, but they do pick up the imperfections. And back to 400. Not until you get on the last grit that you can actually see that there is an issue. Yeah, this one will make it. I'm safe. It did chip out at the very top, which should be under the clip, so it's not a problem when we get there. Finish it with a bit of 600. Drop the speed right down. Super glue again. Right, good evening to those that have just come in. I can't follow the chat. Brian, are you popping in tonight, worming for me, or are you sitting in the background there? I can soon let you in if you hit the go button. Don McKee, Douglas. Chat's going quicker than what I can see. Barry's in, but welcome to you all. Ben's in. Only time I can see the chat is when I'm not looking at what I'm doing. Right. Super glue. Steve Scott. Question. Don't slate me for this. Come on. No, it's not that one. It's that one. Don't slate me for this, but has anyone turned a small piece of brass on a wood lathe? Yes. Just be careful. Slowest speed your lathe will go. Generally speaking, I would say a scraper would be better. But it's your tools. You can do what you like with them. Right. Second one turned. Yep, it's nearly dry. I find with super glue, it's better to leave it for an hour if you can. So what are we going to use next? We'll use a Continental spindle gouge. And if Douglas is in, which he is, or he was, Douglas, you were questioning some gouges the other week. You sent me a few mug shots. Well, this is a Continental spindle gouge. I'm looking for the best bit of grain, and the best bit of grain is in there because it's curly. This end is pretty straight and bland, but what will be the bottom has got a little bit of character and twist to it. So again, line up the two centres. Don't worry about the numbers you can see on them. I usually cut 20, 50 at a time to give me a chance of gluing them all up rather than do one bit at a time. Right, Douglas. You can just about see that if I hold it there. A very shallow, wide, and this one's 3/4 of an inch wide, European spindle gouge. Ground to a nose, Light's just catching it, but not much I can do about it because I need to see. So it's round. Yeah, that's a better shot. It's round, so there's a bevel on it, but the bevel I make slightly steeper, so that's about 25, or coming back the other way, 25 off of 90, 65. So all we're going to do is rub the bevel, and I can do the whole pen with this. Slightly lower on the handle. This is a bit of ash. No pressure on the tool and the wood. It's just gliding along there. There's the cut. So I know I'm on the bevel. No, you can scrape. Doesn't do you any favours. So find the bevel and keep that. Not quite as easy to control, I find, as the English spindle roughing gouge, but maybe that's me. But there's certainly nothing wrong with it. One tool for the complete job. You wouldn't get very far if you were going to try and turn a bead. You'd only get the 25 degrees in either side. Now, as there's no beads on this, it's quite good for tool control. See, Alan W's in. I'm guessing that's Alan Wallington, one of our club members. He said he was going to be in, but a bit late. And he's been had a lesson on StreamYard. He wants to do a little bit of something on here if he can. I think he's had his son round to give him some guidance. I'm not absolutely sure on that. No. All more or less the same shape, my pens. Almost straight from the centre to the top, and the character is in the bottom. And so many turners, beginners that do slimline pens, and bearing in mind that the centre on a slimline pen is the same diameter as the ends, they make a figure of 8, and they're really proud of it. I've picked up several and held them, and oh dear, terrible. Like holding a bunch of marbles and trying to write. They say, oh, they sell. Well, what others have you got on your stall? Are you only putting those on so that people don't have a choice? One of the reasons I have come off of the slimline and gone over to the streamline. Kits are the same price. And I think that's quite delicate, quite nice shape. Drop the speed back. Go in at 120. fairly mundane grain, but that'll shine quite nicely with a finish on it. Right, another method of finishing. Much the same as the thread cutter. This one's a cross-hatch knurl. As long as you keep your fingers away from underneath of it, hold it onto the bit you intend impressing. Now I will just go up to and over the hump. Not much, not quite enough. Automatically picks up where it should be. But for the more frail and those with a grip that isn't quite as powerful as perhaps yours or mine, I can see it. You can't see it on the camera. No, it's white. You'll have to believe me on this one, guys. Right, bit of 400 just to lightly go over it, followed by a bit of 600. With a hog's hair bristle brush, just clean out the knurl on the end. Now that knurl tool is exactly the same as a machinist would use on a metal lathe. Axminster sell them. You can quite often I think I picked mine up off of eBay. Not sure. It's a Wagner. It might have been an Axminster one, but I didn't buy it from Axminster. Another little selling point, like I say, you've got to consider not only the youngsters but the older generation, where they can't squeeze anything as tight in their fingers. I'm very reluctant to make one with the rubber grips on that you can buy in some of the Streamline kits. I think they look ugly. They don't do us as wood turners any favours. So I do it this way. Right, super glue again. Might open up the knurl a bit so you can see it. No. So unfortunately I'm being bleached out a bit because of the lighting that I need, and it's a white wood as well. So that's 3 tools down. So that was all done with that, with no effort at all. So this next one's going to possibly make you laugh. Let's turn this off for a minute. I know you can't hear it, but I can. About 3 years ago, maybe not quite that long, I was looking through eBay for second-hand tools, as one does, and I just put in spindle gouges or wood turning gouges, and there were some weird and wonderful ones on there, but the one that made me chuckle the most is this one, which I'll show you in a second. You can just about see the crosshatch in there. I'm afraid it's not brilliant. No, wherever I try and hide it, it's not. You're not going to be able to see it very well until it's polished up. So let's what have I got left? Let's do a bit of oak with this next one, if it will. It wasn't this tool. This is one that I had, but the tool advertised as a spindle roughing gouge was exactly the same. Right, doesn't matter on that. Get up there. Right, now, who's going to recognise that? Let me come up and show you the complete item. That was advertised, or one exactly the same was advertised as a skew chisel. Someone must have bought one. In actual fact, it's an old-fashioned straight or slotted screwdriver. And I don't know who this belonged to, but they were 56 on the tool register. That's a good few many years old. Andy might be able to give you a bit more information on that, or sort of age. Yeah, it's the original London pattern screwdriver, but it works. Not very well. I've reground the end to a point exactly like a skew. I've done nothing else to it, so we're going to see how it does. It shouldn't be too bad, because being a screwdriver, it will be hardened and tempered on the tip. I'm actually finding this easier to cut with than the Continental gouge that I just used. So what does this say to you? What does this show you? It shows you that as long as a tool is sharp, a piece of metal is sharp, preferably that's been heat treated, tempered, and hardened and tempered, and you can sharpen it, you can use it as a cutting tool. So you might say, well, why do we need to go out and buy £40 skew when we can pop into Halfords and buy a £10 screwdriver? Exactly. This is slightly bigger, but without any problems, it works. The shavings are coming off nice. So if anyone is really tight on cash, and they're doing pens and small stuff, invest in a good quality but cheap screwdriver, sharpen it up. Doesn't matter whether you wear it out in a matter of years, because it's only cost you a few pence. You've got yourself a skew, which if you bought traditional tools, like I say, that would be 40 odd quid for a good quality one. Don't know what Colwyn's are, these German style ones, but they're not going to be cheap. I was actually amazed when I saw this advertised as a wood turning chisel. I expect it was children of an old craftsman. It would have needed to be an old craftsman for the age of this style of screwdriver. Just guessed. It was him with his wood chisels. It's a long blade, big handle. Must be a wood turning tool. Well, that's straight off of the screwdriver. 240 grip. Straight on there. Don't need to bother with 120. There's the 400 gone. What's that, 400? Huh. All right, I did it with 400 straight away then. Grabbed the wrong bit. So 600. Just taking the sanding lines out more than anything. I find with 600, that's all you need to do. There are people in the camp that will say, oh, you need to go with the grain, get rid of all the scratch marks. You can if you wish. I don't really want that sort of exercise. I've had enough getting up and moving around. Anything in the chat? If I've missed a question, guys, I do apologise. Stick it in again and again until I see it. But, we will get there. Right, exactly the same again. Super glue. Wish I could sort these lights out so that you guys could see it. But if I turn that one off, I can't see, but you can at least see that it's oak now. I wonder if that will make any difference to you seeing these two. You can see the just about, not brilliant. You can see it more there than anywhere else. But, Trust me, it is there. Let's turn this one back on again so I can see. So what have we done? We've done 4 different tools. Question from Douglas. What is Elmbert like to turn and end grain turning? End grain turning on elm. It'll give you a bit of a fight, Douglas. It will. It is literally down to tool presentation for that. It's such a wild grained wood, very strong, very waterproof, water resistant, which is why they used to make coffins out of it, because it didn't rot. So it's a very hard wood, rot resistant wood. It was also, another stupid fact for you, but I can give you these stupid facts. It was also used for water mains, particularly in London. Elm was, because it's rot resistant. We have a sample at the museum of an old elm water pipe. They were commonly used to transport water across the town. All they had to do was hollow them out. And I believe in a lot of instances what they used to do was go out and look for rotten elm trees, or elm trees that were rotting. So the centre come out fairly easy. But you imagine a 6-8 foot length of elm trying to hollow it out by hand. You don't get 6 or 8 foot long chisels, you don't get 4 foot long chisels very easily. So it was a fair old task they had, and I'm not sure quite how they managed to butt joint them. Must have been basically tar, and as they were laid in clay, London clay, there was no pressure on them as such. No, not like we've got today. We get minimum of 6 bar pressure on what we get today out of the tap. It was literally atmospheric pressure from a storage tank, possibly only 20 foot off the ground, and that storage tank was filled by a semi-reciprocating pump by some man on the ground pumping it out of the water, and it's straight up there. Can I send the link to, if I just, no, I didn't want that, I want that. If I invite, bear with me guys. Inbox, no I don't want inbox, go away. Log in. Why does it computer take so long when you're where is it? Didn't pick it up. Copy. Paste. Right, go back into here. I've just sent you the link, Mark. If you want to. If not, don't worry. I've managed this thus far. 3/4 of an hour into it yet. So if you wish to, if you're dressed, I'll leave it up to you, mate. Gav today, Keith, your channel should be called Class is in Session. Love your lives. Thanks, Gav. I'm doing them because I want to pass on my knowledge to others. I don't see the point in burying it with me because I haven't told anyone. I'm quite happy to pass on anything. Always have done. As far as I'm concerned, nothing in wood turning is top secret. Why should it be? You can go online now, you can pick up all the YouTubes you like, see all the videos you like. So why shouldn't we pass it on individually so that you guys can ask us the questions? Andy was teaching woodwork at the time. We ended up with a great stock of elm. Yeah, well, down south where Andy and I are, and Brighton, there was a hell of a lot of elm trees removed from. Hi, Mark.
Hello,
Oh, yeah,
you jerk.
I know. Oh, I thought I sent it to Brian.
Oh, he was backstage waiting as well for a while.
I didn't
He
see
did
him.
say, he did say in the chat that send him the link. You can't have earworms if you don't send out the link.
I'm sure it's on his messenger, but I'm not going to argue now. Yeah,
Hello,
going back to what,
everybody.
yeah, good evening to you, Mark, and thank you for popping in. Going back to what Andy said, yeah, we were fortunate down this end of the world that when Brighton Council decided that the elm trees on their land didn't think they were safe and they needed to be cut, a lot of it was dropped around locally. And Andy, obviously at school, managed to pick up quite a load. Question from Chris. I'll put it up on screen so it doesn't disappear. What would you say is the most common mistake that beginners make that experienced turners don't do? There's only one, Chris. Scrape. They don't ride the bevel. So everything is scraped off rather than cut off. What you're doing is you're making so much more sanding for yourself at the end of the job. If I'd have been scraping those 4 that I've just turned, I would still be sanding the second one. So learn to ride the bevel. Don't have the speed too fast. Speed is your friend, but there's times when it can be too fast. You can be spinning the wood too much. And I see quite often beginners with 12, 14-inch bowls on their lathe because they've got to turn a big bowl. We've all done it. I'll own up to it. I did. I've got a 30-inch platter indoors that I turned. You want to prove to yourself that you can turn big. That didn't go very fast because I didn't want the lathe working itself around the workshop.
Keith, if you go back to turning, I'll read the questions out for you.
Okay, I've missed a few, but like I say, I apologise for that. Right, for the last tool that I've got, a conventional skew. So they've all been sharp edge tools. Over to Mark.
Can't believe you CA is a finish.
Yeah, I always do. I know you don't like it, but
Oh dear. You only did it because I wasn't here.
no, I do it all the time. I only do one finish.
See? I'm not around for 10 minutes, it all goes to pot.
So turning from the middle of each section out so that I don't pick up the end grain and tear it. And although this is one of the worst tools to master, you've got to have the bevel on there so that it'll cut. If you don't, that's what happens. It just picks up and chases along. See, good for cutting screw threads on there. So
Ben's got a question. Can you explain the pros and cons of a curved cutting edge skew versus a straight edge? So he means a radius skew.
right,
As
yeah,
opposed to a straight.
yeah. The biggest pro that I find is that it's easier to use.
Brian's got to shoot off. See you later, Brian. Not
Cheers, Brian.
Sorry.
Thanks for stopping in.
No, not Brian. Not Brian.
No.
Sorry. Adam. That's what I
Adam.
said, Brian.
Yeah. Comes off just the same. As a beginner, sometimes it's easier. There are, let me turn that off a second, I can rest this there. There are the round nose skews that are ground off more one corner. And you'll usually find that it's so that you can go into it, but it's not essential. That just ground down the middle, sharpen down the middle.
Okay, I'm all confused now. Adam hasn't going anywhere. Please.
Okay.
His comment said, sorry, Brian, I'm back to work. So I thought he meant he was going back to work. Just ignore me.
Okay.
It's a loss of hair that's done it.
Yeah. Yeah, the brain matter's escaped.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Okay. Get it.
Right down to the mandrel, the bushings. See the end so you don't go on the metal. So. Don't press too hard.
Jigsy's shed is in. Hi, Jigsy.
Hi, Jigsy. Let the tool ride along the wood rather than force it along the wood. If you're forcing it on the wood, you need to sharpen it. And you should have sharpened it 5 minutes ago. And the other thing is you can tell when a tool's getting blunt. When you get to that point, you've got the last bit, you do that and it jumps off the end, you're pressing too hard. It should just glide off the end. Did you see the comment from Linnykins, Mark?
Yes, I saw that. It's very kind.
I didn't pay her, honestly, to say that. No. Nice bit of pitch pine. Some
Lewis
nice,
Klondike Crossman's in. Hi,
hi
Lewis.
Lewis. Nice grains through there. That'll polish up nice. Just need one more cut off of there. Just a little bit of a lip. I can take off half a mil. That's all it was. Drop the speed down. I'll go down to 120 this time. Not going to sand it heavily because any pine that you sand heavily, you will take the softwood off. So it'll end up a bit like corrugated paper on the outside. And that's not very comfortable in the hand. Quick 120. I did have them in order. And I used them. 240. $400. $600. Now, when that's polished in a bit, that will look absolutely gorgeous.
Hi, Rich. Beard 16's in.
Hi, Rich. I've already told people that you're not doing anything live tonight, mate. So they can poke up with me for a bit longer if I can keep the voice going that long. So they know you're not to expect you.
Hope the flooding's not too bad, Rich.
Oh, you got decent wellies. Right, CA again.
Oh, JP Woodwork's in. Hello, JP.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I thought you were washing your beard, JP. It's not a finish. It's glue. It's not a finish.
Don't listen to him.
It's not a finish. It's glue. It's for sticking things together.
It's useful for putting hair back on heads.
Shut up.
Apparently.
Shut up.
So,
Lewis asks.
SKUs there.
Hold on. Lewis asks, what's a good time for a premiere tonight? 10 o'clock, Lewis.
Come in before then, if you like. What are we now? 8:30, 9:30? I should be finishing indoor with a beer in my hand by then, hopefully. So two SKUs, excuse me, but both do the same job. The round end one, for beginners, is quite often easier. With you using so much CA, where do you get it from, please? If you go onto eBay, Chris, the 3 tubs of this, and it's the Everbuild medium, is about £10. Or you can go elsewhere and buy 1 tub for close on that. And these are 500s, not the 20s. So you can get 500 at a ridiculously cheap price. I think Mark's looking at eBay to find you a link.
Yep.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what he's doing. Right. So my turning tonight was done with an Axminster centre saver, which is, I think, a must because it puts the compression on the tubes rather than what they give you, a pimple in a recess in the middle so that you can put a point in it. The point will just bend if you're not careful. This, you've got a hell of a job to bend because you've got all this metal on the end and that much sticking in the tailstock to hold it still. So I've never had an issue with them, and it's just well, mine's a 2 Morse, so that's what that is. That fits straight in there. Oh, I knew I'd lost a nut the other day.
There's a link for the CA Everbuild.
Right, thanks, Mark.
Also, Jamie's got a he's got a link in the description of his videos with a discount code for Starbond that's going from 10% up to 15% off.
Uh-huh. But then if it's Starbond, is that American? And you get collared with...
Sometimes you do. There's always a chance.
Yeah. What do I want? I want tail number 1. So just check if you're getting Starbond that you're getting the shipping fees and whatever it is included in the price. Hello, Di. Yeah, there's always a possibility of a customs charge. Yeah. Right. Let's see. The first one I did was the walnut, which is bone dry now. So what have I got on here? I've got an 8-inch buffing wheel, stitched so that it's not loose. I've got Vonax buffing compound, and the trick is to keep hold of the wood. This beast will throw it everywhere. Basically full lick. On this one it's about 2/8. So I do half at a time. Make sure you're pointing away from the way it's coming. It's no good putting it on that way because it'll grab it and throw it around. Put it on pointing down. You don't need a lot of pressure. You don't need to struggle with it. Do half, turn it round, do the other half. Got a little bit of CA, so I use the teeth of the tool just to run round there, pick that out.
BD's in. Hi, Tournage de Bois.
Hi, Daniel. I don't know whether you can stop.
JP's got to go. He's back to watching a film with Vicky.
Cheers. Thanks for dropping in, mate. I'll catch up with you. Can you see the threaded?
Just about.
Yeah. But when you hold it on the threaded bit as a grip. It stops it sliding through your hand. Particularly if you're arthritic. And personally, I think that looks far better than the rubber piece that they give you. And if you use the rubber piece, you have to then cut either cut the blank short and face it off, and then fear cutting through the brass tube. So I think it's not a very good idea, and I think my idea is better. But I would say that, wouldn't I?
Keith, can you use the mandrel to buff them? Douglas asks.
You can. The problem with that, Douglas, and I've tried it, is that if you put them on, they do tend to spin. So what you're doing is you're wearing away the inner brass tube, and then you get a sloppy fit
I
if you're
find
not
the
careful.
best way to do that with my pins, I use the tube insertion tool.
Yeah, but again, if you're not careful, this will spin them round so quick
No,
they
it
can
won't
get
spin them
hot.
on the tool. It won't
Right.
spin them on the tool. Because you hold one end with your finger, the other end with the tool, and you turn the tool, it turns the pin blank.
Mm-hmm. You can't see it, but that's really nice. It's come up. Doesn't feel plasticky, but Mark will have his own words on that and tell you it does. So that was the first one. This is the cedar. A little bit of compo on there. Don't want a massive amount. So these have been done a good half hour. Some of the American turners, some of the English turners will put on the thin CA and they'll coat it with up to 20 coats. Personally, that looks horrible because it does look plasticky. But the single coat of medium left to cure on its own for, I'd say, half an hour to an hour minimum, lightly buffed, is all I do. What have we sent? We sent about 500 pens to various veteran charities, all done the same way. And I've got one indoors, the wife uses one, and it's still as good today as when I first turned it. Oh, what are we looking at now? 7, 8 years ago. Sue uses hers every day. Not a massive amount, but she uses it every day. Not necessarily clean hands because it's in the kitchen. And we've still got a decent shiny finish on it.
Gerard the French turner says no sanding sealer, no accelerator.
No.
You've got to be careful with accelerator, Gerard, because sometimes it can turn the glue white and you'll get a misting or a haze on the glue. That's why you shouldn't use CA as a finish. But anyway.
Didn't hear that, Mark?
Sorry, I didn't say a thing.
The only other finish I would use would be melamine. And then not buff it up, but burnish it up with burnishing cream. These do want another good polish in the morning. But,
Wipe on Polly's another good one.
right. Can't say I've tried that one.
Similar to melamine.
Yeah. Yeah. They're all similar with their own intricacies. So there's not one good one, there's not one bad one. It's the method of application that I find is the issue. People want to make a pen and they think, oh, do that in 5 minutes. You can turn them in 5 minutes. But the time you've cut your blank, because I don't buy blanks. Yeah, I need to cure a little bit more. I don't buy blanks. I've got my blanks here. I just need to chop them up to length and drill them. That is probably the longest individual part of pen turning. The fiddliest bit is putting the buggers together. But you can turn a pen comfortably from start to finish in minutes. I don't ever use CA as a tube adhesive because it breaks on wood. You don't get enough grip. It's the one I use. It's a foaming one, and it's a 30-minute one. A little bit on the tube, twist the tube in to the wood from both ends, leave it for whatever you can. Like I say, I do 20 minimum, usually in the region of 50s each time.
I use
I won't.
Gorilla.
Yeah.
Gorilla Glue.
Yeah.
The expanding one. The brown one.
I found brown can be a bit dark on some of the white woods. This is a white one. You shouldn't see a lot anyway. If you're seeing the glue on pens, you've not cut them very well, not turned them very well. Harry's feeling all high and mighty since he turned his very own hollow form. Good for Harry. About time Hodge learnt to do some work then, instead of sitting there watching him. So guys, I've got one more to buff up, but I want to leave that for a little bit because it's not as dry as it could be. That was the pitch pine one, the last one. Won't be shipped to Northern Ireland. Dangerous cargo. Sorry, Brian. Amazon won't do it. Does Amazon ship to Northern Ireland, Brian? No good asking me because I'm not over there. I know everything's getting a bit of a pain at the moment. I agree with Mark. No one's correct. There's a lot use it and there's a lot that don't.
No, people who use it are wrong, and people who don't are correct. That's the right answer.
No, shut up. You've just had your strength sapped because your hair's cut. So you haven't got a brain now. Don't forget. Neil M's saying, Brian, there are some on eBay that do ship to Northern Ireland. If you know what they are, Neil, perhaps you can message Brian the link or the manufacturer or the supplier so that he could get some.
I think most people in the chat know that I don't hold strong opinions about much, but I do
No.
about CA.
And scones.
A couple of, yeah, and scones, yeah. Green
Scones.
first.
Yeah, and pasties.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mind you, I think anyone that's had a decent Cornish pasty knows the difference between a decent pasty and
Ginsters.
Ginsters, yeah, which everyone thinks are the right pasties because they're made in Cornwall. So they can't always be right, can they? Right, guys, I'm basically at the end of my demo of what I'm going to do. Because, like I say, unfortunately, this last one's still a little bit too tacky to buff up properly. So I will go over them all again tomorrow before I put them together, or when I next get back in here. Let's change camera so you can see my ugly face. Since I added one, they've all changed numbers on there. So get rid of that. Put me in shot. So, any comments? Any questions? Tournage, I like a good friction
polish. Yep.
Do you find it's robust enough though, Tournage, after a few years?
Yep.
Because I've tried it, but I'm not going to say that I haven't had good results. I have, but long term, I didn't think they were that brilliant. Great with the screwdriver.
Hampshire Sheen High Gloss is good as well. Lasts pretty much forever.
Okay.
Put it on right.
Okay. Thanks for the great screwdriver. It's showing people that they don't need to spend a fortune. And like I say, you can pop down to Halfords, buy yourself a cheap £10 screwdriver. That's an expensive one, I think. But regrind it to skew or even a scraper. I have in my kit a straight ground screwdriver into a scraper just by knocking the angle back, and I've also radiused the top of one so that I've got a round scraper. Useful for some horrible woods that you can't get a decent finish off.
Keith, Gav's got a question. When you buy pen kits, do you need bushings, or are they just to make it? No, you've got to buy the bushings for the kits.
You haven't got to, but it does make it a bloody sight easier. If not,
believe me, you've got. Don't go down the road of trying to make your own bushings. It's far, far more expensive than just spending a couple of quid on a set of bushings.
Yeah, get each one with the kit. But to be honest, unless you're going to do a lot of different pens, stick with Streamline, not Slimline. Because the Streamline bushing, the centre one, is just that much bigger. You can see it there. There's a Streamline one either end, and the one in the middle is the Slimline one. That gives you a nice transition from nib to clip. And like I say, my biggest objection to Slimlines is that beginners buy them and they make a figure of 8 out of them, but they make it so pronounced it looks bloody horrible. Unless that's just my opinion. But the amount of people that I speak to are with me on that one. They don't like them for that. Pick five to six different kits and focus on those. Makes life easier. Yep, I'll agree with you. But also where you get them from as well.
I'm even less than that. I only turned 4 different kits.
Right. I think I'm basically down to 3 or 4 kits, but I shan't say the favourite one, but the one that I buy and make, the Streamline, is because I give them away. I send
I'm
40,
quite happy
50
to
of them
say.
at a time.
Quite happy to say my favourite kit's the Omega by Taylor
Yeah,
Smurfield.
yeah, yeah. But if you shop around for Streamline kits, I think the cheapest place is what's his name down in
Pen Kits and Bits.
Pen Kits and Bits down in Kent, one of Jamie's neighbours.
Brian, I'll message you, mate. It's easier.
Never made a pen. Don't have any of the kit recommendations. Yeah, we can sort that out, Brian. That's easy enough. And the price that you get from Pen Kits and Bits is the price that you pay. There's no shipping on that. I'm not sure about Ireland, but I think it's all inclusive. It certainly is UK.
It's Dave G, isn't it? Pen Kits and Bits, Dave G.
Dave Goodwin, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dave Goodwin. I've got the details indoors because he's the only one I use apart from some of the more expensive ones. Looks like a fat finger with a 50-year-old wedding ring on it. Yeah, you're about right there, Ben. I always relate it to the 40s, 50s ladies, tight waists, big knockers, big arse, and pulled in at the waist.
Procraft are good too.
I'm reservations on them. I haven't turned that many of them. They do funny shapes, funny styles, funny designs, I find. But there again, everyone does. Can't all be the same. CS Crafts are cheap too. Are they, Jennifer? Don't know. I looked at them earlier on, a couple of years ago, and they charge delivery on there as well. So on top of their kit price, you've got another £3 or £4, depending which way they send it, to include into it. Whereas Dave will charge £2.20, I think it is, for each kit, and that is inclusive of postage and packing. So you can buy one, or you can buy 100. If you're buying 100, I usually ring him up and give him a bit of lip, and I usually get a couple of kits thrown in for free. But get the bushings at the same time, but you only need the bushings once.
Yep.
First kit from Dave Goodwin. Yeah. Yes. The only problem with Dave is that if you ring him up, you're on the phone for half an hour chatting. I don't object to that, but it does make you wonder how many calls he's missed. There are so many out there. It's a job to pinpoint one. But, are you able to put Dave's details on it? Have you? Right. That's how slow my chat's slow. Oh yeah, got it now. There you go, Terry. Try that one. Doesn't cost you anything to look. So have a look, compare the prices. See what it's the delivery that I find is the hidden extras. Axminster aren't too bad. I think they've only got 2 finishes on Streamline. There's the matte gold and the chrome. The chrome is nice. The matte gold is, well, it looks like no one's polished it, to be honest.
Hi,
Oh, Mr.
Wayne.
Peters. Yeah. What time do you call this? Hope you're standing in the corner with Val. Been late. Is Daniel off, or is he gone?
He's gone, I think.
He's gone, is he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're just in time to ask us a question, Mr. Feeties, because I'm just about to knock it on the head. Unless everyone comes up with a lot of questions. Doug Miller, thanks, Keith. Need to get COVID test done. Well done, Doug. Hope you don't have an issue with it.
I'll send our love to Val. Wait.
Yeah. Ian in the shed. Has he just got here? We've got some part-timers tonight, haven't we? God. They're all coming on expecting Rich to be on. But Rich isn't on tonight. He's got wet feet. And apparently he's not a duck. So he's called tonight off. But hopefully, with some of the pictures that I saw on the news before I come down here, that all you guys in the chat are on dry land. Some up in the Midlands looked a bit damp around the Birmingham area from the pictures that I did quickly see. Steve Scott's off. Thanks, Steve.
Cheers, Steve.
So he's building a Viking ship. Yeah, quite possibly is. Come on, guys, hit me with the questions or I'm going to sign off. I know there's still 41 of you there watching me.
Just got to put a link in for Klondike's premiere later on.
Yep, please.
Go check that out, everybody.
What time's he on?
10 o'clock, I think.
Oh, he's gone. He's gone for 10, has he? I know. I did say he could put it in up past 9 if he wanted to. Go and check out the link first before you make up your minds. Chris, Robert. So what am I going to do next Tuesday? The answer is I don't know. Has anyone got anything specific that could possibly last an hour that could be made worthwhile for other people? And I'm not going to do sharpening because everyone has got different methods. I'm one of the originals that still work on a bench grinder. A lot of the newbies coming in are now working on the ProCraft, which is about sander, about sharpener. You've been finishing pens tonight. You're right, Ian. He's been using a melamine, not had any problems with it. No, I'm not saying that you will. We're all different. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. It's worked for me in the past, so I do it now. Mark uses what do you call it?
Wipe on poly.
Wipe on Poly, yeah, which is an American one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Benjamin is asking how is Scott doing. He's been sent home or been stopped from going into work because he's on the track and trace system, and he was in contact with a COVID-19 patient yesterday. So he's peed off at the moment because he's got to isolate for 10 days. I haven't spoken to him. Quick message this morning. I think he's locked himself away because he doesn't want to speak to anyone at the moment. He gets back to work and then they lock him out again. And it's going to be the same with a lot of them. I mean, it's stupid, really, when you think about it. 90% of his cases are now COVID that he's taken to hospital. So obviously he's going to be in close contact with them. He's had the jab. That won't be effective until the end of next week because it's 12, 14 days after you have it, apparently.
Okay. I've got to shoot off. It's just gone 9.
Cheers, Mark. Thanks for dropping in, mate.
It's all right.
I'll make sure that you both get the links, but I'm sure I put Brian in. But there you go. I'll check when I get indoors. I'm not going to argue. It worked.
See you later, everybody.
Thanks, Mark. All the best, mate.
Cheers, Kate. Bye.
Bye then. So you just got me to poke up with now. I hate CA finishes on pens. Yes, I can agree with you to a certain extent, Wayne. Mr. Feeties. How many coats are you looking at on some of the pens? A lot of the American, Canadian turners and some of the English turners will use the thin and put up to 20 coats on. I use a medium and put 1 coat on and give it a good buffing. And I've had them last for 8+ years. No problem whatsoever. There's no point in using paste waxes because you get an instant finish over top of your sanding sealer. As soon as you get Terry's off, cheers Terry, as soon as you get hand body acid on them, it eats into the wax and you're back to bare wood. And then you've got to take them apart, rub them down, try and get rid of all of the existing wax that's on them so that you can finish them again. Not an easy job. Gav is asking, why do people hate CA as a finish? I think from exactly the same reason what I've just said, Gav, is because a lot of the American Canadians and some of the English, they put on up to 20 coats, which is a skin. And that soon builds up. So it looks plasticky. But my other question and comment on that would be, you're turning polyester acrylic pens, which are plastic. So all you're doing is basically contradicting what you're turning. You don't like CA because it's plastic looking, but you're turning acrylic because it's plastic. Yeah. Mark's not going to let it go. He did mention it's a glue. Yeah, it's a good glue, CA. But it's also a reasonably good finish as well, Mark. Go and get on with your knitting. practice your pole dancing and your chainsaw juggling for the weekend. And like Mark says, it can crack over time, but it's only going to crack over time if you've got such a build up there. Yes, but a plastic pen is plastic. A wood pen is wood. It shouldn't be plastic. You're not going to let it go, is he? Took around, yeah. Wayne, I know this is the issue. You're putting on 20 plus coats, you can get a fantastic finish off it, but you increase the diameter of the pen by up to at least 3/4 of a mil. He's not going to let it die, is he? That's what happens when you shave your head and your brains go out. They escape. Ben, CA is a glue. It's primarily a glue. It was designed for sticking skin together. Now, in Vietnam, I believe, when they didn't have medical hospitals as such that could administer an anaesthetic, and they'd got needles and thread to stitch people together, they found that by pulling the skin together and dropping in a little drop of CA, smarts like buggery to start with, but the job's a good one. No more leaking. So, yes, it is a glue. It's a good glue, but I wouldn't use it to glue in the tubes unless I was gluing in tubes to a polyester or a resin, because it's too brittle and it soaks into the wood. So it soaks into the wood, so it leaves nothing much on the brass tubes. So is Mark finally gone? Well done, Ben. I think we both done that. Mike's off. Mike, you've gone down to Ilminster. But if we all used, at the end of the day, the same item for a finishing job, a gluing job, whatever, there would be 1 or 2 glues, 1 or 2 waxes, and that would be it. Yes, Pete, I always rough my tubes up before gluing, either with the CA into poly or with the foaming glue into wood. You will find, if you're not careful, that if you wipe a brass tube before you do anything to it with some meths or something like that, white spirit, you'll get a black grease off of it. Those tubes are extruded. They're pushed through a die. To push them through a die, they need to put grease on there. So, absolutely essential. Bit of 80 grit along the length of the tube is all you need to do. It just scores it enough that the glue, whichever you use, will grip. Have I used friction polish? I don't particularly like it on pens. I don't think it lasts, Douglas, for pens. But that's my personal opinion. Some people use it. Like I say, there's so many different ways of finishing it now because there's so many different finishes on the market. And like Wayne is saying, enjoy your hobby as long as you're doing it safely, whatever your choice of finish or technique is. I totally agree with you there. No one's going to finish the same two pieces exactly the same. So I'm back in, what's today? Thursday evening. It's the trouble when you're retired, all the brain's gone to bed. I'm back in next Tuesday for part 2 of the bowl I started this Tuesday. Yesterday I glued the oysters in to the slot. Today I've packed it with bark dust and super glued it in. So we're good to go. I was going to use Milliput to fill around the oysters, but decided against it because I didn't like the colour. It was brown. It was a lighter brown, reddy brown, and the bark, U-bark ground up, was about the right colour for the bark on the U oysters. So I've done that without telling anyone, but you'll soon see that next Tuesday when I bring it in to show you and finish it. And I think I've used just about every polish, every finish going for pens when I was first started to see what it lasted like and see how it finished. Douglas is off. Thanks, Douglas. Glad you've enjoyed it. Hopefully everyone's put a thumbs up. Tick the thumbs up button. If not, it doesn't really worry me. As long as you've enjoyed it. I don't know how many was in. I think there was close on 50 at one time. So if 50 of you enjoyed it, or at least stopped by, I must be doing something right. So what are we doing next week? No one's dropped any suggestions in yet of what they would like to see. One thing I won't do is sharpening, because everyone's got to learn to sharpen on their own, and I've only got one system. What tools have I got that I can possibly demonstrate and make a demonstration out of? Because we've done bowls last week with the bowl gouges. But the only thing left is some spindle work. So might see if I can dig out a few spindle gouges and do a few beads and coves. Will almost be a practice session for everyone. What about a box? Brian is asking. I'm not a big box maker. I hate the things. You've got to be so critical with the wood. I haven't got the best of storage facilities. I might have got the best wood supply. But I've turned them, I've taken them in, and the following day they've gone oval and the lid fits where it touches, and then you've got to try and remount it or take enough off so that the lid at least can fit easily. spindle turning, or natural edge goblet, vase, whatever, something on a bit of a stem. I see Brian was playing with a goblet on his new lathe today. Beads and coves as practice, Brian is saying. So that'll be spindle. Di said spindle, because Di is basically a bowl turner, isn't he? From what I can gather. Don't know how much he's done in the way of spindle work. It won't be big stuff. It won't be bench legs like that. I had to do 100 of them. So they matched up in batches of 6 for a local school. Carpenter was making the benches, and he wanted me to turn all the legs, and each bench had, was it 6 or 8 legs on? Don't know. I did over 100 anyway, and they were all oak, and some of it was really crappy oak when you got into it, massive voids in there. Out with the oak dust, out with the CA glue, drive the dust in, poke it in, drop a CA glue, just carry on. He was chuffed as bits with them. A nice ornate candlestick with beads and coves. Well, I've got a relatively ornate candlestick, Pete, for possibly a 2-parter a bit later on, when I do some spindle work on the stem and faceplate work on the base. It's a 3 or is it 4-part one? I've got the plans for it, but me and plans don't always work. So I did spindle for 6 months, ran out of spindle, sick, yeah. But I'm picking some up on Saturday. Well done, Di. So it'll be spindle to start with. I'll have a think. Might do a basic candlestick to start with, or just practicing beads and coves. Coves are easy. The beads are the worst thing, but it'll all be spindle gouge. I won't be using a skew on the spindle work. Let's stick with one tool for it all. So right, guys, I'm going to bugger off. I'm going to get beer. That water doesn't taste very nice. Not as nice as a beer will in a minute. Good at matching spindles for a project. Depends what's the wood dye that you're thinking of using for the project. Hopefully it's nice and dry. Cheers, Brian. Could do a cup and put the rings on. What do you mean? Could do a cup and put the rings on? You've lost me on that one. You mean a goblet? And I don't do rings anyway, because I think they're a total waste of time. Right, guys, I'm going. Lightly oak or Cellar. But bone dry. As long as it's bone dry, Di, you shouldn't have any issues. A goblet is what I meant. Okay, I think you need to go to bed. See if you can get some sleep tonight. I'll see if I can as well with your mother snoring in my ear. Right, guys, that's it. I'm finishing it. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you've all signed in. And I will see you, hopefully, next Tuesday lunchtime. Not sure whether I'm doing next Thursday night or not. It's down to Scott whether he wants to take his evening back. But I'm off. Bye for now.